loaded in. Let's lock on that Seither cam and get organized here in the bottom left. He's in the blue. This is RiSky.
And in the top right from Mind Freak, the region's strongest Terran. He is Seither. Big Sheldon.
Alrighty. Quite like this map. We've seen a lot of violent clashes in the middle of it. There's a few places to posture around towards the mid game. Couple of angles to come in towards that third base and fourth base. And that's kind of what I'm expecting from these guys going into a longer game. To me, that's where both of them excel. And we tend to usually see longer games from them. But you never know. I feel like it's possible that Seither could throw in a build or two that moves a little quicker. We have seen him do stuff like Marauder Hellbat, for example, just to, throw a cheeky one in there.
Well, you know what? When I was talking about the map vetoes, this map and I feel like Everdream, the next map, are kind of the better maps for a rally push like that, like a Hellbat push or a Marauder thing, or even just some kind of like tank stim timing. Like those kind of parade pushes are a little bit more powerful on the shorter rush distance maps. And this map has some pretty nasty terrain around sort of the, when you head towards the choke point of the Zerg, you have some high ground going down to low ground. And even to the left, or rather to the right in this case, because RiSky's bottom left, to the right of his natural, there is some pretty tasty siege spots as well to be able to pressure this area and that third base. I mean, if that third base on the right side is actually quite lovely for Zerg on this map, you have a lot of room there. There's not like the high ground isn't too close. And this is a Reaper expand from Seither with a Marine behind it. Nice conservative opener here with the SCV delaying the third base.
Yeah, nicely done. And he's going to have to wait a little bit. That Reaper can always come back and kill that drone. Lings are out, but of course they're not very speedy yet. Nice micro there from RiSky. Just pulls back the injured Ling one at a time. And so far, so good on this defense. In fact, the Reaper has to watch it a little bit. This poor drone. Oh, no.
Oh, that's actually very nice for Seither. He not only killed the drone there, he's delayed that third base by a solid 20 seconds already. Very good start, and the Reaper's still alive, and it's regenerating hit points. The SCV can go back home. Its job is done. And now RiSky needs to pull the Queens off creep here to force this Reaper away. Otherwise, he doesn't get a third.
Yeah, starting to get that creep spread happening too, and fending that off. I mean, Seither will know that speed wouldn't be too far off at this point anyway, so the usefulness of that Reaper is starting to diminish. Usually you just want to hide it somewhere, and you can kind of pop in maybe feel like you can get into the main and get the full scout off after, but it's a little bit harder to be quite so brave on the map with the Reaper once that speed kicks in.
Now, we were expecting cheekiness from Seither, Zeph, but I think with that delayed third, RiSky is going to try and punish Seither for his transgressions. Seither is dropping that fusion core. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, he does love his BC builds. Seems like they're back in fashion again. Now, RiSky is going for a third, but not before getting that lair. So with this lair here, we're going to have to keep an eye on the gas count and see what he does with it. Is it going to be something like a Nidus Worm? Is it going to be a switch and a Spire? I mean, I need more gases for that. There's not too many Queens. There's not too many Lings, so it just looks like he's shooting up that tech path. Maybe really fast Baneling speed. That could be something that especially EU Zergs are lacking a little bit more.
Yeah, there have been a few styles that are more around that really heavy lair pressure, mass amounts of Ling Bane, going up to 2-2 upgrades really quick. However, because he's rushed that lair before the Evers, maybe not quite that. And there you go, you called it. The Spire comes down for RiSky. And so that'll be an important thing for Seither to catch onto. Early on, you don't have a lot of anti-air. You do have the BC. The mutas can't really engage the BC very nicely, but the BC is only in one spot at a time.
Well, we are going to see that BC build, and it's a BC into bio here, not BC and mech. Seither has been known, he had the propensity to go into mech back in the day, but it really is all about bio right now. Just in this matchup in general, Terran's loving it a lot more. And I mean, we're on Singapore, so it's actually a lot better ping for Seither here than RiSky as far as Seither goes. So bio makes a lot of sense. And you're quite right about that Spire. If Seither gets caught by it, you can just die. And RiSky is sort of amassing a bit of gas at the moment.
Yeah, really liking RiSky's movement with the queens and starting to push that creep out. That's especially important around those up the ramp spots, because you can bet that that's where the Terran would love to camp their army right on the edge of the creep and sort of start to duck in and out from that position. Now, at least Seither, with the build that he's gone for, he's not going to have siege tanks right away. But
I want to say I actually don't like this for RiSky very much. There's not that many mutas on the way. This BC actually should die. Or actually, you know what? Seither's just chilling on that Spore Crawler. He might lose the BC without the Mutalisks. What is... Oh, no, Seither.
Oh, my God.
All right. Just gets out of there with 16 hit points. The mutas will absolutely be able to finish that thing off. He just sat there tanking so much damage. He does kill 12 drones, though. That's a lot of damage.
Huge amount of drones, but those mutas are going to chase down that BC. He needed to pop it home, and unfortunately it will go down, and that's a big blow to Seither. What does he have back at home to defend against this? 6 whole Marines. Just now getting some missile turrets though, so that helps buy him a little bit of time, but I'm sure RiSky will be able to get at least a little bit of vengeance for his fallen drone brethren. Maybe pick up an on his racks.
Problem for RiSky here is that Seither already has turrets in these mineral lines. So the mutas, yeah, they have the potential to do some damage here, but I think that that's limited to maybe a few SCVs, maybe an add-on if they're really lucky. Hellion potentially here. Not even.
Wow. Not very lucky so far. You should be able to get something. Just keep him alive and they will eventually be able to do damage. However, Seither's now got enough to whereby he's brave enough to push out and establish that third base, and from there we can imagine that he's probably thinking about pushing. That 1-1 is finishing out, more medevacs coming out, and combat shields isn't too far away either. So RiSky is keeping a presence here with these mutas, but back at home he's going to need a little bit more juice to deal with the Terran.
See, the thing that I think's negatively affecting RiSky quite a bit here is that he rushed for a Spire. Like, even though there was a third base and that sort of thing, and he didn't get that many gases, he did rush for that Spire, and he was putting a lot of eggs into these mutas. So they have to pay off for him. If they don't, he's going to be, I mean, I would even say right now he's pretty far behind. Like, his upgrades are super delayed versus the Terran. 1-1 is already done. When the armory's done, he can go straight into 2-2. And there's going to be a combat shield. You know, with combat shield done, Seither's going to have not only a better economy, but a better army. And that's not good for this. Normally for the Zerg here, you have more drones. You have, you know, fourth base a little bit quicker than that. But because of these mutas, RiSky had to not only spend lava on mutas, lost 12 drones to the battlecruiser, and he's been playing catch up with his gas, spending it just now on all those upgrades.
Yeah, morphing into more Banes as well. 1-1 won't be finished for this attack, and this is that use of the terrain that we see here from Seither. The mutas go for counterattack, but they actually need to leave. There's enough Marines there to fend them off, and Seither on the front lines is going to start clearing up that creep. This is going to be very difficult for RiSky to engage. Look at that pre-split and that tank positioning. He's going to come in here on the high ground.
Tank not siege, strangely enough, and I mean RiSky did prioritize speed Banes over the you know the attack and the defense upgrades, so they do have speed, which is nice. But the reinforcement Marines trade very nicely there against RiSky's leftover defense. Right now, RiSky has 0 Banelings. He's morphing 4 at the moment. That was all the minerals he had to afford them because he spent the rest on Zergling reinforcements. Big moment right here for Sheldon. The Terran looking quite dominant at the moment.
Yeah, he's looking really scary, pushing forward slowly now, picking up the tanks to bring him in. Nice round on the bio here, but it's doing so much damage.
Oh, no.
Doesn't have enough damage left in him to take this out, and Seither's going to continue up the ramp. GG comes down, and RiSky goes down in game 1. Seither looking real good there.
GG. All right, things starting off a little bit spicy here with the non-favored player getting himself a pretty convincing map 1. That wasn't one of those games where it, like, you know, RiSky had a lead and threw it or something like that. Seither's build order choice got him a very nice lead with that drone damage. He lost the BC, of course, and that's expensive, but the mutas were pretty ineffective. That decision to get the Spire from RiSky was pretty risky. Didn't pay off for him. And Seither, making very few mistakes, managed to get a very scary push. It engaged well enough. He didn't have his tank siege, but he didn't really need to. A lot of Banelings died, and we're actually showing in this replay as well that it started off decent for Seither with that third base denial.
Yeah, it's just a couple little things went right for him with that third base denial, and that ultimately spurred this decision for RiSky to go for the fast lair. And I cannot believe this BC actually got out of here. It looks like RiSky was perfectly well set up, right? He had all those queens, he had spores, but just taking a lot of damage. And then at this point in the game, he just doesn't quite have the force that he needs or the money that he needs to fund said force to take Seither's army out.
Yeah, and we are seeing the end of this push here from Seither in the end of game one because he only has Lings to deal with. Like I mentioned at this point during the cast, there's just no Banelings. The only threat here to this Bio Hellbat ball. And that's just GG right there. That's done.
That is indeed done. Not really what I expected from the first game, not gonna lie. I thought it might go a little bit longer than that. But that's a promising start for Seither, right?
Yeah, a promising start. Getting one of those shorter maps and the parade pushes that I mentioned is a little bit stronger for Terran on these maps. He does have two maps where I feel like these kind of things are a lot stronger. But of course, then when we get into game 3 and 4, things start to switch towards the Zerg's end with those much longer maps, those much wider, thicker maps. And we're going to take a short break here. When we return, it's going to be game 2 between Seither and RiSky. See you then.
The sun is setting, girl, this time I'm betting. You come alive and whisper in my ear. It's getting colder and I'm getting bolder. You be the heat and be the freaking I feel. Can you feel it, girl? I'm gonna steal it. You got us down, it's like we're in a trance. Drop is coming, think this time I'm coming. Let's get on the phone and dance. Let's get on the floor and dance. Do you wanna dance? Dance. Do you wanna dance? Dance. Do you wanna fly up to heaven? Fly up to heaven. It's way past 11. Do you wanna dance? No one around us. No one around us. The music has found us. Do you wanna dance? I've been tripping, girl, losing my gripping. A little something just might do the trick. It's almost morning, came without a warning. If we're gonna do this, we better make it quick. I'm getting closer, gun out of my holster. So intoxicated in my trance. The drop is coming, think this time I'm coming. Let's get on the floor and dance. Let's get on the floor and dance. Dance. Do you wanna dance? Dance. Do you wanna dance? Dance. Do you wanna fly up to heaven? Fly up to heaven. It's way past 11. Do you
G'day, StarCraft fans. Are we looking smooth and shiny? Oh, you know what? That's looking pretty smooth. Yeah, we fixed it. All right.
Nice.
Short break just to get the production sorted out. But of course, we are in the lobby for game number 2. It's just around the corner. Zeph, I got you co-casting with me. I got Insano on the obs. I got StarCraft 2. I think this might be my happy place.
Yeah, it's a Friday night. What a better way to spend it than doing some
Right.
StarCraft? And the
I got my glass of
StarCraft
whiskey.
party
I
don't
mean,
stop.
apple juice.
Apple juice. Yep.
Yes.
PG. But yeah, after this, I believe EU is also continuing. So I think Latin America after that even is just an endless party. I actually can't keep up. I'm struggling to keep up with the VODs for every region. It's just it's a good time to be alive in StarCraft 2.
It is. Speaking of alive, that's definitely how I would describe this game. There's just so much of it, and DreamHack Summer is just around the corner, the main event that we're all trying to get our players sorted out for. We are inside Game 2, guys, on Everdream. Let's get into it. The bottom left here, the New Zealand/UK Wunderkind, presented by the Lions. It is RiSky.
And his opponent with a very impressive game 1. This is Seither.
Great rally push there from Seither. Very hard to stop that as a Zerg if you don't have things like Baneling speed, which RiSky did have, or just a good bit of creep spread and a good amount of units. There's Muta's unfortunately a bit more of a liability. Now this game is a bit more what I expected from Seither here in the series. Trying to go for the quick and easy early rally, pressure the Zerg into a submission. Overlord trajectory of RiSky, though, has altered to the middle of the map, and if it keeps going this direction, it'll absolutely see it.
Yeah, he'll see it. He's smart enough to be rallying those overlords into the common pathways where people like to drop the racks, and he just spots it now. So very nicely
Hand in
done
the
from
cookie
RiSky.
jar. Sees him.
Yeah.
I mean, RiSky is he's stuck going hatch gas pool anyway, but you can pull drones if you wanted to.
Yeah. The more warning you get, the better, because that way you can decide whether or not it's appropriate to pull drones or whether you just back up.
Right.
So he's going to pull a few here just to ward away the SCVs for the moment. First Marines are out, so he's going to have to start being a little bit careful here. Pulls very close to finishing. So with drones and a few links, he should be okay to start mounting a defense here. Here come the rest of the drones. He's not messing around here. That's a lot of drones. Cancel on the bunker already. Marines have to watch it as well. Oh, beautifully done.
Yeah, like this is actually a very nice hold so far from RiSky. Obviously, a ton of denied mining time, but the investment here from the Terran makes this worth it. As long as he's not losing too many of these drones. Oh, getting a second Marine nearly gets the SCVs. I mean, as long as the SCVs are alive and Marines are pumping out, there is still a possibility of that bunker getting up. Keep in mind that RiSky this whole time has only been mining off of like 4 or 5 drones.
Yes, however, he does have 10 lings on the way. 8 are already out, and there's not that many Marines here. So with drones and lings, he can continue to push this back. That SCV is going to go down as well, and the bunker pressure is no longer going to be a viable thing here. So just Marines, and against this many lings, it's just not going to be quite that effective. So it looks like he's still going to pump some more of these out. But
yeah, the Marines just they're just trying to trade as well as they can with the lings here, but you can see that Seither is pulling back. He's getting himself a factory back at home, just pops a reactor on it immediately, realizing that this proxy is not going to give him what he wants. He's traded a lot worse than RiSky here. RiSky's only lost 2 lings and a drone. He's lost his bunker. He's lost SCV and all the Marines at the front. He's going to have to just pull them back, and unfortunately for Seither here, give RiSky the map.
Yeah, very well held from RiSky. Completely calm. No stress at all. Kills a couple of SCVs and a couple of Marines. Unfortunately, he will be losing an Overlord here, but that gives him a little bit of information, if nothing else, that the factory and reactor is coming down. Does supply block him, but he's got some Overlords on the way. And all in all, can't be too upset about how this early game's going. He's gearing up for that third base just as soon as he can poke this Rax out of the way.
All right.
Oh.
Seither using his micro there to just try and block the third for a little bit longer. And obviously, the third has been extremely delayed here, but so has the natural for the Terran. So has the units that are scary after the early stage of the game. There's only 2 Hellions popping out just now. The Marines just pulling back to try and hold on to that natural. RiSky is, he's starting to head towards his comfort zone here, getting towards that higher drone count. Started Ling speed, obviously delay that a little bit, prioritizing minerals over gas.
And Seither going straight into a medevac from here. With those Hellions out, he can potentially drop those into the mineral line and try and get himself some drone barbecue for an early game snack. Not sure how effective something like that will be because RiSky's already getting more Lings out on the map. He has 3 Queens here as well. So defensively, I think he's pretty well set up.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. He definitely has the units to try and handle this. If the Hellions are off creep, I think that Seither should be fine, but on creep, he's not going to win that engagement. We got some Cloak Banshees on the way here for Seither. And, of course, we know across the pond, our boy Innovation, extremely scary with those Banshees. Now, Seither is not Innovation, but he does a very good impression. Let's see how he does here with those Banshees.
Yep. Coming in from the third base angle, he's going to get one Overlord again, supply blocking RiSky, and that's beautifully done. Queens are in position here with a few of the Lings behind. He's just going to take his time with engaging this. He wants to morph some Banes first. And very patient play here for RiSky, just taking shots at those Hellions, pressing forward a little bit. Seither likewise keeping tabs on where RiSky's force is at.
He's trying to buy time here. Now, obviously, these Marines don't have stim. They've come across the map very early here. And that means that the slow Banelings are a little bit scarier. I like this decision from Seither. Load up the medevac with 4 Hellions, try and hit the main base. There's a little bit of a dark zone where you can thread the needle and get into the main without the Zerg knowing about it. The RiSky does have a couple Overlords a little bit further than that. So his sensor net is, almost complete.
Yeah, I was wondering where the Banshee was at. It's just chilling at home waiting for that cloak to come in. Unfortunately, this drop does path directly past a couple of Overlords, and RiSky is already pulling a bunch of units in to be prepared for that. So again, I really can't fault RiSky's defense here in the early game.
It's truly not. A great hold against the proxy racks, a great hold against that, stimless Marine Hellion push at the third, which looked very scary. We do have stim on the way here for Seither again. He is confirmed bio, double engineering bay, as well as the extra second and third barracks. RiSky going for his 4th up to the north side, which Seither could have potentially denied, but he's being a little inactive with his Hellions on the map at the moment. Not really poking and prodding the Zerg.
Yeah, might pop in with those Marines again just as soon as these Banshees come in. They're headed towards the main base now. And this time, Seither, remembering where those Overlords were, is going to go right along the edge of the map. And he's going to sneak his way in. Now, in the main base, there is already a Spore. It is in a bit of a sideways position, though. So these
it'll have to unburrow.
Banshees, they'll find some kills for sure.
Absolutely. There's that innovation impression. You know what? It's a pretty good innovation impression. 9 drones, both Banshees still alive. He can just macro around that Spore Crawler detection range, threaten the Queen even, forcing an Overseer out of RiSky, which isn't here yet. Great couple Banshees from Sheldon, for sure.
Yep, up it comes, and unfortunately these Banshees will be still in the fight for RiSky to deal with. But Seither's got to be feeling pretty good. He's finally getting some damage on the board here. He's got a bit of a follow-up push. One of the Banshees goes down, so he's just going to settle for clearing up this creep. This is going to be a very likely spot for him to push through later. So if he can keep the creep under control, that's going to help him out.
I actually completely agree with you there. The reason why Seither is getting rid of this area is because he doesn't want to push on that low ground upper ramp. He wants that high ground. He wants to carve a path through that third base of the Zerg. Pole position Ling there, delaying the third base for a little bit. And of course, Seither will plop it down and get to mining. See, RiSky's been pretty greedy. He's on 80 drones, let's say nearly 80 drones. He's actually hitting 80 as I mentioned it. And Seither is going for a push. His army supply is way bigger than RiSky's. Once again, RiSky, similar to last game, taken towards Mutas. But in the meantime, he is under attack.
Yep. And Seither's going to back up here and reposition towards the 4th base. With that grass there, you can get a really nice position. Keep the tank on the high ground. No Bane speed just yet. So this is a bit of an annoying spot for RiSky as Seither continues to press in here. You can deny those couple of Banes on the front lines if you can get close enough. Queen's pulled into the fray again as well. And Seither just waiting for the right moment to pounce here. In fact, RiSky's going to bring the fight to him, jumping all the way in off creep. A few more Lings coming in from the right side. Is it enough for Seither, though?
No, I mean, it is enough for Seither. It is not enough for RiSky. He's got a couple more Banelings rolling in with more morphing in. There's only 2 Banes at the moment for RiSky with 10 more on the way. Obviously, a dozen Banelings is more than enough to hold this. But Seither is being so patient off creep. He's brought another tank with that lovely little lip there. That little peninsula for that tank. So hard for the Zoo to get rid of it. It's going to be able to help him zone out if he can target fire the cluster of these Banes right in the middle of that pack. Seither could actually break this 4th. And if he breaks this 4th, he will break RiSky.
Yep, microing backwards again off creep, trying to target down those Banes. That siege tank, oh, beautiful hits there. Cleans up the Banes that were coming in from the back. And now it's just Queens on the front lines here. A few more Banes in the background, but that may not be enough to clean up this Seither. He's running away and letting the tank do the work there. And this control and this attack from Seither has been really good so far.
Now, if RiSky can hold here and take the wind out of the sails of this push, he will be in a pretty good spot. His 2-2 upgrades further than the Terran. He's managed to sneak some tech on him as well. He's got that Spire. But of course, RiSky not spending any money on those mutas. It's all about the Lings and the Banes. That's exactly what he needs here with those Queens to keep that 4th alive. We've got a real tug of war in our hands here. More Banelings streaming in. That's so many Banelings. This might be it for RiSky. If he can crash through the tanks and get into the Bio Ball. He's so close to connecting, but this far off creep. Oh no, the trade's not really there for RiSky just yet. He is starting to close the gap with the army supply.
Yeah, almost double the resources lost for RiSky over Seither. The tanks being gone, though, stops this from being quite so effective from Seither. He's waiting for more reinforcements, another tank coming in. The target fire with the tanks on the Banes has been phenomenal, and that's knocked out a lot of RiSky's best moves towards taking out the bio. So Seither's still able to position here. Beautiful move by RiSky. They're going around the back, and not quite keen to commit there again just yet.
The addition of the mutas, RiSky, you know, spending a bit of lava and a lot of resources on those mutas. Obviously, RiSky is quite broke, doesn't have a ton of money in the bank right now, but those mutas are a big deal. He's going to have a bit of an easier time pushing back the medevacs, and if he can get those Marines pushed back, he doesn't have to waste Banelings on this tank anymore, or suicide them at the moment, trying to get into the, you know, to have to worry about these units that they trade against. Uh-oh, a little bit of miscontrol from RiSky, losing a few mutas here.
All right, he does back up. Might be able to get a medevac there. One of those is very hurt, but Seither's still just holding this position. I have to say, RiSky's macro behind this has been really, really well. Really good, rather. He hasn't slipped too much. He's taken a 4th base, and here he comes with a much bigger push. Can he clean this up? Seither's picking up and getting on out of there. It's a little bit too much now.
Good spread on that unit, on those units from RiSky, mitigating the Widowmine there. Seither's army a little bit awkwardly placed here. Tries to go for the split, but a little late. The Banelings connect with the pack of the bio. And RiSky is not only going to hold at the 4th, he has enough Zerg to actually push back and kill quite a bit of Seither's army supply. Now, there is a bit of a lead for the Terran, and he's throwing in Liberators here. So Liberators in the army, obviously their anti-air ain't what it used to be back in 2015, 2016, but they are still not too bad to help you zone out this position. If you can siege them up on top of your Widowmines, on top of your bio, with the medevac on top of them, it can be very hard for the Zerg to get the trades they need. They're also a big hit point sponge for those mutas and taking up those glaive hits. And the planetary attempted counterattack there from RiSky. Let's see this planetary holding strong.
Seither's getting another fortified position here again. It's going to be a little bit tricky to move forward with those mines there. Another nice run by towards the natural and 3rd base, though, will get himself a Thor. But Seither's pressure this game has been really good. He's headed into 3-3 as well, and that's going to be so important. If that kicks in, suddenly this gets even harder to defend against, and he's still just not quite able to get creep up this ramp.
You're absolutely right on that level 3 upgrades there, Zeph. RiSky's trying to get to tier 3. He's got himself an infestation pit, but he needs to still hold here, so he's putting so much in the tier 2. A good attempt at the cleanup there for RiSky. Looks like he might have enough mutas to actually kill all the bio on the ground. The answer is yes. Seither losing the push once more. He needs those reinforcements to join up with the medevacs to have a chance here.
Yeah, very nicely done. And Seither's just going to keep this hype train rolling. RiSky, again, taking another base behind this. His economy is quite good. It's 76 drones. It's just constant making of Ling, Bane, Muta to try and defend against this. Mine shots takes out a few Lings on the retreat there. Muta's managing to stay alive. Another 2 mines burrow. And Seither is continuing his push forward.
RiSky did not get to pick off those 2 mines. Seither standing and fighting in the Banelings here. The Marauders helping a lot with the tanking. Seither actually takes a really good trade, Zeph. Is this it for RiSky? Can he hold here? The mutas are getting thinned out by the Marines on the left side. The Widowmines connecting with the Ling Bane. All that's left is the Queens, and that will not be enough. RiSky is bowling once more for a 2nd game in a row for Seither. Oh my goodness, our Australian Terran on match point.
No way. He's up 2-0. He's on match point right now. I'm not sure what I'm watching right here. I mean, look, I've got a lot of faith in Seither, don't get me wrong. But both games, he's just been so dominant and in control the entire game. It's really, really impressive. I feel like he's reached a new level.
Now, once again, obviously amazing results so far for Seither to be on match point against one of the strongest players that have ever graced our region. But we are getting towards the longer, the bigger maps where these rallies, these pushes, even the proxies to a lesser extent are just not as powerful. There's that hold from RiSky at the start. And I got to say, this game started off very well for the UK/NZ Zerg, doing a very good job holding and managing to get his economy to a really scary spot. He got all the way up to 79, nearly 80 drones while holding. These double Banshees from Seither, though. Can't forget about those.
Yeah.
It gave him the leg back in this game. You know, with RiSky's hold, it looked really good for the Zerg, but then the Banshees turned the scales again towards the Terran.
I love the constant aggression from Seither. There wasn't a moment that he didn't have something traveling across the map to pester RiSky with. And a lot of persistence here and tenacity, holding that high ground, microing back into the no creep zone. And look at these Banelings just getting wrecked by siege tank shots and the target fire of those Marines. And it's not like RiSky was doing a bad job of holding on there. He just couldn't really break it. And just when he gets a finally good engagement like the one we see here, the next wave of Seither's army is already ready.
And this looks like the final wave there. Once Seither's managed to get the Marauder count looking a little bit healthier, you know, those 2-2 upgraded Marauders smacking those Banelings with their faces. No problems. They are tanky boys. They can take a hit. And the Marines with that DPS carving through those mutant numbers. And the Widowmine connection's not too bad as well to start off that engagement. Remember, that first Widowmine off creep actually killed like maybe 8 to 10 Lings to start things off with, which is already a great start of that engagement. And I mean, you called it, Zeph. He was just pushing back creep, and you could see like a flashing red light. The Terran will push here, and RiSky knew that better than anyone else. He was just trying so hard to consolidate all these forces, but it really feels like a tug of war with these kind of parade push games from Terran, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not like RiSky wasn't trying to find a way around it either. He was still trying to spread that creep in that area, but Seither was just really good about clearing it up again. Beyond that, you know, he tried a couple of backstabs with Lings, and I think he found small groups of units. I recall him getting a tank, maybe a Thor as well. However, he couldn't really find any good damage or anything bad enough to pull Seither back out of that aggressive position. There's just planetaries, there's enough reinforcing units that Seither seemed to be able to clean it up. So, yeah, not really sure what the answer is in that position. If you just can't get the good engagement on the up the ramp, off creep kind of terrain, you really do get stuck.
I mean, the issue there, I think, was because that game was so aggressive. There was so much resources being put into units nonstop for the Zerg. Never really got to the comfortable point where you could start tier 3. He had to stay in tier 2 for a long time, and that big speed bane counterattack, I think, was too expensive for RiSky. He didn't have anything left over after that when the dust settled. But let's talk about game 3 here. It's potentially the last one. I can't believe it. In the bottom left, currently no maps on the board just yet, but I believe in his ability to start to tie it up. It is RiSky.
An absolute titan, and another tournament favorite here in the top right in the red, Seither.
Australian Terran, strongest Terran we've got here on our wacky little island down under. And he has been to the WCS before. He's qualified through those giant qualifiers, defeating the likes of Probe and just dispatching our big names on a regular basis. He's such a talent. You know, we were bringing it up as a bit of a joke, as a bit of a dig that he does play like a lot of other games. But it just speaks to his talent to be able to still maintain an incredible level in the hardest video game in the world. It's, I'm jealous. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm jealous. I want this ability.
That's why we rip on him, because we're on the desk for a reason.
Yeah, dick. That's right.
Alrighty, so RiSky once again going for that hatch first, and it's just the normal Zerg follow-up from here, grabbing a gas in a pool, and Seither going to get a little bit of a hay-ras on with that Reaper coming out, and hopefully RiSky this game can get himself a third base at the timing that he desires. We won't have a repeat of game 1, let's say, where he unfortunately gets poked away from that third for quite a long time.
Yeah, I'll see if history repeats here on this map. The SCV is coming along with the Reaper expand to go to where the third base location is. And this is one of those maps, the downside for the Zerg is that you don't really have a choice of third base. You are pretty much forced to get your third here. And Risky's drone is just like, oh god, not again.
Yeah, and also at this point in the game, yeah, it's that base feels 4 years away when there's a harassing unit around. But beautifully done by RiSky. He hides it just next to the wall there, so he's actually gone completely around that Reaper and will be able to take the third base right away. Seither will duck down here and be disappointed to see that it's already been taken eventually, but yeah, for now, just got to content himself with poking at those lings.
It is 2:30, so I think that you know, Seither is happier to just poke with that Reaper. If he really wanted to grab that base, he knows better than anyone else when the third timing of the Zerg is. But he drops a pretty quick third his own self, delaying that second gas by quite a bit. It's about time to take it, but with this delayed second gas, he's going to have a pretty beastly economy to try and match up with his third base. So he's actually completely fine, I think. He's just like, oh, that's okay. My plan this game, because it is the bigger map, is to try and just play a little bit greedy, a little bit more macro focused. Not going to get aggressive at the start like he did on Eternal Empire, on Everdream rather.
And I quite like this on Eternal Empire because your first 3 bases are pretty easily defended as a Terran player. A couple of well-placed tanks, park your bio in the middle of your natural and your third, and you're pretty well covered. Eventually, you can wall a little bit as well with your supply depots, and it's a little bit difficult to attack into there as the Zerg player. So I like the choice to go for the quicker CC on this map. Seither also finding himself an overlord here on the right hand side, just trying to make sure that that can't really get too much of a look into that main base.
As if this second gas of Seither has been delayed an incredible amount here. It is still just 1 gas from the Terran. Second and third barrack startup. There it is. 45 supplies. Second gas. My goodness. What a greedy boy.
Don't need gas when you're just making SCVs.
True that. You do need to get factories and stims and stuff and upgrades.
Nah, SCVs will do it, mate. It's plenty.
Forget it, mate. What are you talking about?
Yeah, all good. So Stim's halfway done, and we're starting to see that extra production come in now. Seither's not going to waste any more time with that CC. He's got the orbital command happening, and he's going to plonk that down in just a second. And finally gets that overlord out of the way. In the meantime, RiSky's starting to push his creep spread out here a little bit as well, which I very much like.
Now, apart from the fact that Seither is playing bio, because the Overlord confirmed spinning Tech Lab on the barracks, Seither RiSky doesn't know about this quicker third. So he is just droning along. He's not going to try and pressure it or anything like that. You know, the Zerg actually has a little bit more army than they normally do at this point. Than normally the Terran would have a pretty solid army to be able to pressure the Zerg. You usually have like a Reaper and a handful of Hellions going across the map. And as I'm saying that might be what's tipping RiSky off to the fact that there is a third base here, is he's just seen no Hellions. He just has very little information.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet on his side of the map, and going for the 5-minute 4th base, you know, that's confidence right there that you know what's happening here. He's already fully saturated on those 3 bases, and he's gone back into the Spire. Of course, once again, that means his upgrades on the ground will be a little bit slower than his opponents, because, you know, Seither's getting close to halfway done with the 1-1 of his own, and with those medevacs coming out, we may start to see a bit of pressure soon. But as always, we see RiSky going for that Bane speed first, which is the best move.
Yeah, all the EU Zergs and a few of the Koreans as well really like Bane speed before anything else. Spire as well from RiSky, and that's another thing that's really sort of changed in this matchup, is the faster Spire, the more reliance on Mutalisks. Seither's got a well-timed armory here. Should be able to get 2-2 right away when 1-1 is done. He's got a double drop, 16 Marines on the right side here. Obviously, Stim is done. Combat Shield about to finish. If this timed out with 1-1 and Combat Shield, it would be an absolutely devastating drop from Seither, but it could still do a lot of damage. RiSky does not have a ton of units.
He's got 11 Banes morphing, and he's been trickling in Lings, so he's got a little bit here. Will force Seither to lift up and go elsewhere. Should be enough to defend against this for the moment. It's more if he decides to come back with this and a little more that it'll be scary, but Bane speed will be done by then. Mutas are coming out now as well, so bought plenty of time for those to come into the fight, and now he's going to be shifting into his own upgrades.
Big delay on the upgrades though, so while yes, it's cool to have Bane speed and cool to have Mutalisks, they really need to be babysat by RiSky. because there is the 1-1 upgrade is already being behind 2 upgrades in Terran is something that Zergs are used to having. But if you have a Terran approaching 2-2 when your 1-1 is still on the way as a Zerg, oh my.
no.
Oh, wow, the door is open. This could be a dead tank. If RiSky can grab this, is a lovely counterattack from the Zerg.
Wow, look at that positioning from Seither, though. He's going to make it as difficult as possible to get in there and take out all these Marines.
The SCV was actually helping attack the Zerglings rather than repair the tank, but it doesn't really matter as Seither is setting up for a counter push over here. RiSky has a lot of mutas. He's got a lot of speed banes. Getting a cancel there on the 5th hatchery is Seither. We can see that RiSky time and time again in these games wants to just be a greedy boy, the giant Zerg that spreads all over the map. And this game, he's trying to get away with it. Seither's going to carve himself a hole in the creep down here on the high ground, though.
Yeah, this is a scary position actually for Seither. He's got a no creep zone, but RiSky can potentially come in from multiple angles here. So he's trying to bring the fight to him, move straight up to the top of this ramp. There's a lot of banelings here, and the mutas come in for the attack as well, and RiSky slaughters that.
He certainly does take down the army of the Terran in the bottom right. Seither's got reinforcements, though, plenty of Marines out in the field, and his macro's been pretty solid. At the moment, RiSky's actually floating 1,200 minerals, Zeph, and he's nowhere near max. So he's either got a lava problem, or he just doesn't have a whole lot of production facilities at the moment. It looks like maybe he could do with a macro hatch or something, because he just doesn't have enough production to spend that money.
Yeah, he's expanding twice here, hoping to keep at least one of those alive to keep him fed throughout this game. Nice last minute save on that missile turret will poke these mutas away. I think the scary thing is that 2-1 is about to be finished for Seither. The 2 armor is going to be a little bit later, but that's fine. But RiSky himself, with the style that he's gone for, is still not even on 1-1. So as soon as that +2 upgrade kicks in, that trade is going to be so much better for Seither.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about here for RiSky, is the big upgrade lead when he's going to be able to head 3 upgrades. That +2 attack's going to finish well and truly before 1-1. And also Seither is getting towards the unit comp that you need to have to trade really well against Lingbane Muta when it gets to the later stages of the game. This is a bigger map. He has plenty of room to, the Zerg rather has plenty of room to be able to react to the Terran. But you can get a death push happening when you have enough Drilling Claws, Widow Mines, Thors as well to tank those mutas, and the Banelings. They have that ability, don't forget.
A concern for me for Seither is this creep spread of RiSky, which is starting to get a little bit out of control. RiSky's just doing a phenomenal job with that. He's managed to establish both of those other bases, and he's heading towards Hive. So while we're saying, oh, Seither looking pretty good upgrades and everything, RiSky is looking pretty big at the moment, and he's keen to do some damage. He's going to bring the fight to Seither.
Yeah, sending in the mutas here. They're picking off the Widow Mines, but one does connect with the mutas, and a Thor just popped out the main as well, so needs to be careful on those Mutts. Going for Concussive Shell there. He knows that that's not Combat Shield or Stim. He's just going for Concussive Shell. And, I mean, getting the Tech Labs is nice, but not the greatest damage in the world. Luckily, RiSky not losing any of the Mutts, and we do have a counter drop from Seither starting to get active on the map. And the macro for both players looking a lot more solid now. RiSky has spent his cash. He's got all his upgrades kicking in. Hive about to kick in, and that's when things start to get scary for the Terran. As RiSky could head towards Greater Spire, he could head towards Ultras, which is also common, and Vipers, also common, so...
Yeah, and this is a Spore that RiSky made very early on in the game as a defensive move against this exact kind of drop. So beautifully done by RiSky to have that foresight. This drop isn't going to be able to do too much. He might be able to pop it in the main and try and get a couple more drones. At the same time, Seither's going to use this opportunity to clear up some of this creep because it's getting a little bit out of hand.
Certainly is. Getting himself a little position up here. The Widow Mines have dropped. There's no Overseers here. RiSky needs to be careful. Good control there. Actually managed to avoid most of those Widow Mines, trading very, very nicely against the Lingbane. You get a Widow Mine shot in the middle of that pack, and the Zerg starts to cry a little.
And he's just using this mobility to be everywhere at once. If you have a look at the mini-map vision of RiSky versus Seither, it's actually insane. RiSky's got beautiful coverage on this map. And there we go. Thank you, Insano. Highlighting just how much of the map RiSky can see versus what Seither can see. It's really... Ooh. Oh, my goodness.
Now, that's the Widow Mine that I was talking about before. It's the one you don't want as Zerg. 3-3's going to finish before 2-2 for the Zerg nearly. Actually, it's +3 attack, not +3 armor. And Seither, I mean, this was his comfort zone against me and Micah, where he just basically absorbed the Zerg's attacks and then eventually just started to trade so well that he could just overwhelm with roll him over with a big counter push. This time, RiSky is going to have a lovely bank. He's got a lot of lava. He's got an Ultra Cavern on the way, Adrenal, +3 attack even being researched for the mutas. So I actually kind of like the Zerg's chances here to be able to hold this push from Seither. Banelings and Lings looking to bust down that planetary, and I think they'll get it.
Yeah, that's dead planetary for sure, and the sensor turret goes down as well. Seither actually pulls back his whole force towards that area. He really wants to push down that right side, but every time he comes in, RiSky runs in with something that tends to be threatening enough for him to pull back. Goes for the drop again here. It is getting cleaned up. Mute is going to make sure that this is deleted completely. And Maulings and Banes running in here, actually starting to deal with a lot of the building here of these command centers, even getting towards this mineral line.
A huge counterattack from RiSky, but that also means that a lot of his army supply isn't over here, pushing back Seither. What a spread of Terran units here. The Widowmines, oh, actually, the Overlord's coming forward and making the Widowmines fire on them instead. They can take the hits. As long as the Lings and Banes aren't in there. 10 SCVs go down for Seither, but he still has a lot more workers where that came from. He had to cancel all 3 of those command centers on the high ground, and as well as losing the 4th, that means that Seither's economy nowhere near as beastly as it should be at this point. And here comes RiSky, leftovers from that run by coming in to help him out with this push. That's a ton of Banelings from RiSky. No Widowmines here in this force from Seither. They are just going to be able to move through and clobber everything from Seither on this side of the map.
That was legitimately 8 billion Banelings. He didn't stand a chance there at all. And he's running home, is Seither, but he actually doesn't have a whole lot just yet, at least not in one coherent ball. Mine shots go off, but there's still so much Zerg here. He's got to stim right back up the ramp towards his main base. Is there actually enough here for Seither to hold on?
These Widowmines getting picked off, I think, has been the death sentence for Seither. Those Widowmines needed to have some miracle connections for Seither to stop the flow of Zerg into his base. Yes, that one gets some Lings, but RiSky has got way too much Zerg on the dance floor, and he is just holding that Z button, sending everything across the map, even remembering to cycle in a couple Ultras here just in case the Terran manages to stop the flow of Zerg, but I just don't feel confident in Seither to be able to stop this anymore. Keep in mind, these Mutas are about to have +3 attacks, so their DPS is absolutely nuts, and there it is. RiSky, not going to go down without a fight back, gets the point on the board.
Yeah, very nicely done. That's more how we expected this to go, with RiSky coming out with just the most solid macro play, beautiful creep spread, heavy lair tech play, and that counterattack style that a lot of people are utilizing at the moment, and a lot of other people are struggling against, because every time you move out, you can bet that there's going to be a swarm of Lings coming in somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's another staple of the greatest European Zergs we have, like your Reynas, your Serals, and the Ling counterattacks are just going to keep having, you know, this is just something that is bread and butter for the Zerg at the moment. It is so common, and if you have the APM to spare and the memory, you can just keep queuing them up, and they will always find damage. The question is always how much. And this is just the dominance from RiSky in the early game, from his huge macro focus. He's got zero fear. He's like, oh, I'm incredibly far off creep. I'm basically in Timbuktu over here. But it doesn't matter. I have a bajillion Banelings, and they have speed. And that was that glorious Widowmine connection. But unfortunately, that was kind of it as far as good Widowmine connections go for Seither. They didn't get too much more for him. Good control on the units from RiSky, apart from that one time.
Yeah, RiSky just had too much on the map at this point. He's got complete control of it. He's got units all over the place, and he's got that infinite amount of Banelings, at which point Seither just didn't have enough splash or even army to deal with it. I mean, there's probably a Baneling or 2 for every bio unit that he had there, and ended up in this position where RiSky's on top of his production, chasing him all the way home. So I think maybe back to the more aggressive openers from Seither with a bit more harassment might be the way to go here, because that game, I felt like RiSky just read it so well from the start. He was like, yep, 4 bases, no problem, heaps of drones, and I'm going to be ready for whatever you throw at me.
It really feels like these bigger maps definitely play a part in that. But well, before we get into our next bigger map here for Ice and Chrome for game number 4, we're going to take a short break. Guys, you are watching RiSky versus Seither, our first best of 5 from the Oceanic qualifiers here in the top 4. Do not go away. Stay tuned for the culmination in game 4.
I'm you better know who you know. I go for mine, don't waste no time, and I ain't never stopping. I got moves to make and I'm bad. I want more, I know it. I work hard and show it. I stand hard, got hard bars, got bad girls sipping my way. Imperial by the acre, don't give a damn about the haters. I stay fly and save us, I'm serious about my paper. I look good in that grind, and I grind. Come for mine, why you trying, I look good, and I grind, come for mine, why you trying, Where my ladies who be stacking that paper? Where my ladies who be stacking that paper? Spit your game, show you got drive in that flavor. Get it, girl, don't lose all of your paper. Where my ladies who be stacking that paper? Where my ladies who be stacking that paper? Spit your game, show you got drive in that flavor. Get it, girl, don't lose all of your paper. I'ma give you life when I throw this money up on you. I'ma give you life when I throw this money up on you. Bad little bunny getting money, it's a competition. Steph Curry up the backboard. I ain't worried about it, come up chef, certified star. Wanna win and work for it. I'm the one they love, don't trip, I'm fucking amazing. I'm the one they love, don't trip, I'm fucking amazing. I just came home, now I'm back in the group when the ride till the wheels fall off. Never get lost in the sauce, matter of fact, I stay getting mine like my legs blown off. Hot like Hades, it's amazing how much I'm gonna leave here for my babies. How could I ever lose my head? I'm on a path to blueprint checks. Crossing the leg in the woven flows. Energy steadily hot to the bowl. It's critical that all my girls get paid and they're good from now to the end of the day.
G'day, StarCraft fans. Welcome back to the Oceanic Qualifiers for DreamHack Summer. We are in our first day of this bracket, and we are in our first best of 5, still getting to Game 4 in what has been a pretty close slugfest between our greatest Terran and the strongest Zerg from New Zealand / UK, RiSky. Zeph, are you enjoying the game so far?
Obviously, they've been pretty sick. I mean, it looked like we're about to have a maybe 3-0 upset, which is not really the start to the series that I had anticipated. But now it's a full series on our hands because RiSky's taken a map, and we're headed into Ice and Chrome next. So it could very well be a 2-2 situation, as you predicted earlier on. As we get deeper in that map pool, Zerg might have a bit of a better time.
Yeah, but if we get to Game 5, though, we get Golden Wall, and that's when we throw all of our notes and throw all of our pads and pens out the window and just watch the hilarity ensue, because it could be absolutely anything. So hard to predict that correctly. But Ice and Chrome, generally a pretty comfortable map for Zerg against Terran. See, the Terrans have been complaining about it a little bit. Similar to Eternal Empire, it is just a very large map, one of these new maps in the latest season, 2020, and just means you have a lot of room, you have a lot of rush distance, and we saw how when RiSky has that room to breathe, when he has that space, his creep spread is insane, his macro is pretty nice as well, and we are into it. Guys, getting a point on the board there on Eternal Empire, looking to try and tie it up and take it to the ace match. He is RiSky.
And his opponent still sitting on match point, hoping for a 3-1 victory. It is Seither.
Pretty huge for Mindfreaky to get Seither into the next round. But of course, either player getting into the next round, that doesn't actually mean... I mean, it means that they have another life, of course. They've gone one step closer to the end. But they could potentially be facing Probe or NXZ in the next round, who are very far away from free wins. You know, Probe is one of the strongest players ever, if not the strongest player ever in Australia. And we already talked about Probe and Seither's map record against each other a couple days ago. Probe's got a huge win rate against Seither.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth, a lot of grand finals with these guys in the previous years that we've cast. But, you know, it is a bit of a switch up here in the top 4. RiSky, obviously, he's a little bit newer to this region at least. So that's something a little different for us. But NXZ getting in there as well. If you had have given me the top 12 and said, all right, who's going to be a top 4? I'm not sure I would have picked NXZ. Nothing against him, but I think I would have maybe gone Pez or Ender. So it's keeping it fresh.
Yeah, well, that was that lovely meme from NXZ's Twitter of all these rolled heads. And I remember one of those heads on the ground being Enders, one of them being Pez, one of them being Demi. You know, all these great players that have just been in all of our brackets in this part of the world. He has dispatched them one after another. He's earned his spot here in the top 4, to say the least.
Yeah, did you see the original meme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. Just making sure you got the context.
Yeah.
I was egging him on.
Not the most PG of memes, but yeah.
Ryan Ego Jones can actually be very humble when he wants to be, and I was pestering him like, come on, man, where's the memes? Where's the meme? You need the counter meme. And he wouldn't do it.
That's right. That's right.
He saw the light in the end.
Yeah, good on him. Throw humility out. You're top 4. Go ham. You know you're good. Everyone knows you're good. We got a, once again, similar to the Eternal Empire with the bigger map, he is just going to go triple command center here, delaying that second gas. And not really trying to delay the thirds of the Zerg either. It's just like, fine, you get that third hatchery. I don't care. Just making sure it's there. You're not sneaking a Roach Warren on me.
All good. And we'll start seeing the initial creep tumors out here for RiSky. Trying to spread towards that third base and get that connected up as he pushes out here. Tries to deflect the Reaper a little bit. These Lings still got a little bit to wait for that speed before they can fully deal with that. But what is going to be the opening here for Seither?
I couldn't imagine it be any, too much of a difference from the last game. That is kind of where the build tends to go towards Bio and Hellions for a little bit of map control. But it usually means, obviously, you don't have as many Hellions, so you're not going to really be poking at third base. Your Bio can come across the map a little earlier, but you don't want to do it without stim. Certainly not when the timing of it. You do have your, a decent Marine count out. You can't just walk across the map and build bunkers like you would against Protoss or something like that with like a stimless Marine push. You have to just wait for stim. You need the mobility.
Yeah, I like that he's gone for the Viking here in this game. Can start cleaning up that vision, because I think that's one of the problems as RiSky really got established, was just that he could see too much. None of the drops that he tried to send out could really do anything. He didn't really have much vision aside from the small attacks he was sending out across the map. And when there's creep everywhere, RiSky has a really good read on what's going on. So yeah, trying to get some of that cleaned up early on might help him out a little bit towards the mid game and his initial push.
Now, this Viking actually putting in some work for Seither. Already one Overlord kill. RiSky moving to intercept this Overlord, though, making sure that that doesn't go down. These 4 Queens can actually take that entire army themselves. Not bad for a macro unit.
Not bad at all. And this Viking's still on the hunt. And Hellions joining forces here to try and hopefully get some of these creep tumors. These light creep tumors that die nice and fast. And,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people happy about that.
Mainly non-Zergs. We are seeing a lot of gases being taken in from RiSky as well. The Baneling Nest, I think it's going to go straight into Baneling Speed and probably Spire again. Like it just seems to be the comfortable play style for RiSky in this matchup. There it is, Spire, but no Baneling Speed just yet. Spire before Bane Speed, before anything. That is modern ZVT right there.
That's it. And then you're going to deal with that heavy counter-attack style, the harassment. And I think, the reason we saw the success in Seither in the first couple of games was that he put on so much pressure that RiSky really couldn't do much of that. The mutas couldn't really go across the map. He had to use them defensively, and even the small squads of Lings were used sparingly to try and get some damage done, and to not much success there either. So I like his persistence here, cleaning up that creep, trying to get this kind of out of the way as he moves towards his first couple of medevacs.
Yeah, when the Isles, when those medevacs pop out, that's when the bio starts to get a little bit more scary. At the moment, Stim is the only thing done for Seither. He's just started Combat Shield. His next couple hundred gas actually went into the 1-1, the medevacs. So now the medevacs are out. It's time to start poking at the Zerg, trying to get himself a nice position, clear up some of that creep. RiSky's Ling comes forward and sees that the medevacs are out, and he knows that the Terran is imminent.
Yep. And he's going to head out here. He could... I like that he's left the Hellions there for the moment, because with RiSky's intention to often counter, they're going to be helpful to clean stuff up. But he could, if he wanted to, try and go in a couple of angles at the same time. You know, Hellions in one side, Marines in the other. At the moment, just posturing on the very edge of that creep. And may want to start stepping out here soon, because it's actually going to reach under his feet. And the mutas are out now too.
Certainly are. Muta's going to help a lot against the medevacs, of course, and for picking off things like that, tanks that are exposed and just counterattacking. We see that RiSky, with these faster mutas, is actually going to be sending them across the map for some SCV damage, relying heavily on his Lings and Banelings to try and push back the bio, which he absolutely can. He's got more than enough units to do that. The Hellions and the Reapers coming in to assist. With the armory done, the Hellions can become Hellbats. It's become a little bit more tankier in the frontline fight. No turrets from Seither in the natural. These mutas can find a bunch of SCVs. Has Seither forgotten what CVT looks like now? No turrets.
Oh, no. He's going to lose a lot there. And in come those mutas, targeting down a few SCVs. The turret gets cancelled there as well. And he just swoops on into the main, where there is also no turret built. And the SCV that's building it is the first one to go down, using these Hellions here to kind of threaten on the front lines as the Ling Bane comes in. And 7 SCVs have gone down so far. Didn't actually rebuild that missile turret either on the natural. So a few more workers, or maybe only just one, getting picked off there as well.
Real misread there from Seither, and look at how comfortable RiSky is. It's like, oh, cool, that's fine. Let me drop that infestation pit real quick and slide into Hive Tech just around the corner. Because there is no Terran on his side of the map. At the moment, there's meant to be a fight for control, you know, pushing back creep and maybe getting closer and closer to a hatchery, but Seither nowhere near the Zerg's infrastructure. RiSky has exploded all over this map.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. There's just no Seither presence here. The creep spread is deceptively easy to get to your opponent's base, because it's kind of that one straight line from the natural up to the third base of the Terran. So Seither's going to have to do some serious work in clearing this up, or he's just never going to be able to push. And very nicely done. Starts getting rid of some of that, but look at that. Straight away, RiSky just leaps 2 active tumors he had in reserve forward. So he's going to have to do that again in a second. Mutas come in from the left-hand side of the third base here. We'll get a couple of kills, but get deflected there again as well. And yeah, it's getting concerning if there's no pressure coming out here. 2-2's about to finish. I'm expecting him to move out with that, because otherwise Hive's just going to be here already.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not even like he shouldn't have the choice. He has to go with that 2-2. He has to make something happen with that upgrade timing. If he just sits back here, a player like RiSky, who's just exploding out of control, is just going to get further and further ahead and start to a massive bank, which he's doing already as he's maxed out. See, this push is kicking in. 2-2, just a second away from done. Looks like RiSky is also gearing up for a massive counterattack, or a potential sandwich, depending on what he wants to go for. I think that might be a counterattack. This might work for RiSky. It also might backfire here. We'll keep an eye on that as the Banelings start to finish.
Yep, Seither continues his push forward here. Finally, no active tumors on the very front lines there. And in comes that big counterattack. There's Marines here waiting for it, but it's just such a huge Zerg army that it's actually not enough. He's forced to pick it up and retreat into the main. At the same time, the Muta's destroying the third base mineral line, and this is a crazy amount of damage from RiSky. In fact, the Mutas all go down to the Marines. 18 SCVs killed. He needs to clean this up and maybe go for a push from here.
Now, yeah, that's the thing here, Zeph, is that RiSky's just spent all of his lava. It's all gone, by the way. Terran is up 50 army supply. This is very scary for RiSky at the moment. He just used a lot of Ling Bane there. He did a ton of damage. Don't get me wrong. His economy is way better than Terran's, and there is no macro game here for Seither. But this counterattack from the Terran could definitely win him the game if he controls it well, if it works out for him. More counterattack damage from RiSky. These Banelings, that means they're not at home. They're not defending. See, this push is kicking in.
I think you're absolutely right. RiSky's identified that he might have done goofed here, and he's going to have to keep counterattacking, but he's actually run out of units. Seither is his army supply is incredible. It's huge. RiSky doesn't actually have anything.
RiSky is throwing so much away for counterattacks to make sure the Terran is crippled, but the Terran somehow has picked a gun up from behind his back or something and is fighting while prone on the ground. I don't even know how this is working out for him, but look at all that army on the right side of the screen here. RiSky desperately spending everything he's got as far as lava is concerned, injecting like he can, as much as he can with all the lava he can, but this is RiSky's last stand. Felix from the right side, get a decent connection. Bio stimming in the middle of the pack though, the tank's still very healthy. Oh my god, Seither's got too much. RiSky is gonna have to tap out. The lull from Seither. Shade thrown to our New Zealand / UK boy. Goodbye Ultra Cabin, and one Ultra will not be enough to stop the Terran here. RiSky is gonna go down to the LB, and Seither will move on to the winners match. There's the GG 3-1 victory for Sheldon.